Usually, people respond to a negative, difficult, or bad life event with negative emotions such as sadness, anger, guilt, and the like. And it's both natural and normal to feel distressed when bad things happen. The degree of distress we feel depends partly on the severity of the bad event, but often it's the meaning we attach to a given bad event that determines our response. If we attach a negative meaning to the event, it can take a bad situation and make it worse. But on the contrary, if we attach a positive meaning to the same event, the negative event may not have significant power to hurt us as it would others. According to cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the well-researched approaches in the field of counseling and psychotherapy, what determines the quality and intensity of the emotion you experience are your thoughts about the event. So, while events contribute to your emotional and behavioral reactions, sometimes significantly, it's your beliefs or the meaning you give to events that lead you to feel healthy distress or unhealthy disturbance. Fortunately, the situation is not all doom and gloom. We can learn to recognize how our thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes impact on our feelings. Once we understand the principle, we can then work on changing our thinking and behavior to help us take bad situations and make them better. My name is Birhanu. I'm a counseling psychologist. I have been practicing in the field as a counselor and trainer for more than 15 years now. Today, we'll see some of the problematic thinking patterns that lead to unhealthy disturbance. I'm also preparing short videos on other related important topics that will help you manage life's day-to-day stresses. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and press the bell button so that you'll be notified when such a video is uploaded. Let's get started. Thinking in an unhelpful way is a pretty normal human thing to do. In fact, thinking errors are so common that clinicians and researchers have been able to sort them into clear categories. But common doesn't mean harmless. You probably don't regularly make all of these thinking errors. But to help you better understand them, I encourage you to imagine thinking in the ways that I'm going to describe in the examples here. You will be in a better position to recognize more readily when you are thinking in a distorted way and be able to question and readjust your thinking. Let's see the distorted thinking patterns and begin with catastrophizing. Imagine that you say something to offend your future mother-in-law. From this, you conclude that she'll turn your fiancé against you. The wedding will be off, your parents will be mortified, and nobody will ever want to go out with you again. You're just catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is when you take a relatively minor event and imagine all sorts of terrors and nightmare scenarios resulting from it. Another way of describing this thinking error is making a mountain out of a molehill. All or nothing thinking. Say you went to a job interview and answered one question poorly, and you believe that the entire interview was a complete washout, just based only on the single question you answered poorly. You're thinking in an all or nothing manner. All or nothing thinking, also called black or white thinking, involves assuming that a situation is entirely good or entirely bad, leaving no in-between or gray areas. Making demands. Imagine that you have a preference to be treated politely. So you tell yourself something like, I want to be treated politely, but I don't absolutely have to be treated this way. I can stand a bit of impolite behavior. Now imagine that you turn this preference into a demand. So you tell yourself something like, I must be treated politely and I can't stand it if I'm not. Can you see how the preference allows you to deal with impolite behavior from others without leading to unhealthy anger? Can you see how the demand may give rise to unhealthy anger and other unhealthy negative emotions? Just to be clear, making demands is a big thinking error. Albert Ellis, who founded one of the very first cognitive behavioral therapies, put an individual's demands at the very core of emotional and psychological problems. When you make demands, you are expecting yourself, others, and the world to follow your rules and to never break them. We all hold attitudes, values, standards, ideals, and beliefs about how the world and everyone in it ideally should act. And holding these opinions is all fine and well, as long as we can be flexible and allow room for error and deviation. But if you start demanding that everyone and everything sing to your tune, you'll be emotionally disturbed when things don't go your way. Fortune telling. Assume you want to approach your boss for a pay rise, but predict that he'll say no and be unpleasant about it. If you listen to your fortune telling thoughts, you may never just take your chances and ask. With fortune telling, you make predictions about the future and firmly believe that your prophetic visions are correct. The trouble is, many of your predictions are likely to be negative and may stop you from taking goal-directed action. Mind reading. Imagine that you go to a party with a friend and you don't know anyone there. Some people talk to you but then move on to talk to other people they seem to know. You are on your own for a time and notice other people glancing at you. You assume that they're thinking, who is she? Who invited her? What in the world is she doing here? Oh, how we do love to guess what others are thinking. But when you mind read, you often assume that others are thinking in judgmental and disapproving ways about you. These assumptions can lead to all sorts of difficulties, such as social anxiety and relationship ruptures. Emotional reasoning. Imagine you feel very jealous about your partner's attention to another person. Because you feel so jealous, you may assume that your partner is definitely having an affair. Or, if you wake up in the morning feeling very anxious, you may assume that there must be something to be afraid of and look for a reason to be worried. That is emotional reasoning. It is when you decide that your strong feelings are a true reflection of what is actually going on in the reality. Because you feel a certain way, you decide that your feelings must be correct. You may then fail to take in other information that contradicts your feelings. Do you find yourself thinking in terms of never or always? As in things never go my way? Or I always screw up important meetings? Or perhaps you think in global terms like people can't be trusted? Or the world is unfair? Or maybe you conclude that you're a totally bad parent, partner, employee, or whatever based on one or more of your actions? If so, you are probably overgeneralizing and making widespread judgments about yourself, others, or the world on the strength of one or two particular features. This tendency is also called making the part whole error. That is, you judge the whole on the basis of one or more of its parts. Doing so can lead you to make some pretty rash and harsh judgments and to hold a pretty unforgiving attitude. Imagine you've recently started a new job. On your third day at work, your boss presents you with a list of objectives, some of which you think are a bit unrealistic. You try to run the list past a few of your colleagues for some feedback, but they are all too busy to talk. You find yourself thinking that you always end up with totally unreasonable bosses. The job is terrible and everyone you work with is unsupportive. You never get the good jobs. Labeling and rating. Do you call yourself, other people, and the world nasty names? Well, you are in the labeling and rating club, and it's an ugly place to be. If you call yourself useless every time you screw up, or the world cruel every time it deals you a blow, or others no good when you are treated impolitely, then you're in danger of feeling a lot of really toxic emotions. Let's see it with example. Imagine your friend has recently had a bereavement. You don't go to visit her on Friday night because you have prior plans. When you next speak to her, she sounds very low and a bit annoyed with you for failing to visit. You then label yourself as a totally selfish person and a rubbish friend because you didn't put her needs first on Friday night. Mental filtering. Pretend for a moment that you believe the world is a dangerous and unpleasant place. You pick up the newspaper and focus on the situation in Ukraine and shootings in your city. You fail to take in articles about successful recycling initiatives, crime reduction in major cities, and elderly people being entertained by youth groups. That is, mental filtering. With mental filtering, you only let information through that fits with what you already believe about yourself, others, or the world. If you think yourself as a failure, you only process information that points to you failing. If you believe that your boss is a bad person, you only see evidence to support that view. And if you think the world is unsafe, then you only acknowledge scary and dangerous news about the world. This filtering process can lead you to have a very biased and negative view of yourself and your environment. Disqualifying the positive. Disqualifying the positive is very similar to mental filtering. Imagine, for example, that you believe that you are unlikable and unacceptable socially. Your mental filter only lets you notice information that supports your negative self-opinion. If any positive information does sneak through your filter, you quickly discredit or disqualify it and throw it back out. Low frustration tolerance. Having low frustration tolerance is about deciding that uncomfortable equals unbearable. Basically, if you have low frustration tolerance, you're likely to give up striving toward your goals whenever the going gets too tough or painful. The addict thought anything worth having requires effort and is worth the blood, sweat, and tears really does hold true. A lot of good things in life don't come easily. Imagine you want to improve your health by losing a few pounds and getting fit through exercise. But as soon as you're offered a cream cake, you tell yourself that resisting it is too painful and the deprivation is unbearable. You go to the gym, but as soon as your muscles begin to ache, you decide that you just can't take the discomfort and exercise is too much like hard work. So you go home, order a pizza, and flake out in front of the TV. Personalizing. Imagine you plan a barbecue and invite your neighbors. Unfortunately, a freak thunderstorm rolls in just as the burgers are on the grill. Several women rush home because their clothes are sodden. One couple starts arguing. In the end, the remaining guests and your family sit down to potato salad in your kitchen, while the barbecue pit outside gently smolders. You think the weather is out to get you. The women are holding you to blame for their ruined outfits. And clearly, your aborted barbecue has resulted in the impending divorce of the rowing couple. You are just personalizing. Personalizing involves taking random events and making them a personal issue. You tend to make everything that happens around you about you, even if reality indicates otherwise. This tendency can lead you to assume inappropriate responsibility for events and to feel unhealthy emotions in response to events that have little or nothing to do with you. Today, we've seen some of the common problematic thinking patterns that lead us feel unhealthy disturbance when we encounter negative or difficult events in our life. And I believe you could see some of the distorted thinking that you may have yourself. In our next video, we will discuss how we are going to question and readjust this distorted thinking we have ourselves. If you like this video, please subscribe and share to your friends. Thank you for watching.